Hello everyone, I am Zakaria Stalahum, and this is a work that I have done in collaboration with my professor Sarunas, and the title of our study is Gossip and Attend Context-Sensitive Graph Representation Learning. Our study is about a particular paradigm of graph representation learning, which is called context-sensitive graph representation learning. In general, graph representation learning refers to techniques that enable us to represent a graph in such a way that we can effectively and efficiently perform graph analytics. Particularly, this is ensured by constraining a graph representation learning algorithm to preserve some important properties of the graph. For example, as shown in this picture, one can consider preserving local neighborhood information, which is indicated by the coloring of the nodes. More concretely, in graph representation learning, we want to find a function f that maps each node in the graph to a d-dimensional latent space where d is much smaller than the number of nodes. When we say context, we are referring to the local information of nodes, such as community affiliation and function of nodes, which will give rise to some sort of coherent grouping of the nodes in the graph. For example, in this picture, we see that there are two contexts indicated by the two colors, and of most of the nodes belong to exactly a single context, and just one node is part of multiple contexts. This behavior is quite common in real-world networks. In this actual distance network, we see that there is a strong interaction across molecules that are responsible for different types of diseases. The same behavior can also be observed in this protein-protein interaction network. In other domains, such as social networks, we observe a similar pattern. This graph, for example, shows the Facebook friendship network of a user from Stanford University. In context-agnostic or free representation learning, we have a single representation for every node. And the argument from the context-sensitive learning side is that in some cases, a single vector is not adequate enough to capture complex interactions across multiple contexts. Thus, in the context-sensitive learning, all nodes that are in a single context are mapped to a single point in the latent space, whereas, for example, node 5, which is in two contexts, is mapped into two points in the latent space. We can broadly categorize existing context-sensitive methods into two, those which leverage content information and those which require community detection algorithms. The proposed method is purely topological and doesn't require the extra overhead of employing community detection algorithms. To achieve a context-sensitive learning, it takes inspiration from gossip-like communication and mutual attention mechanism. The gossip-like communication is done by using neighborhood as the gossip message. Our reasoning is that nodes can understand their context by comparing their neighborhood with others. Therefore, given a node, example node 5, it gathers its own neighborhood as a message, and we do the same for every node in the graph. What we just did is equivalent to building a fixed-size neighborhood vector for every node as shown in the table. For nodes with a smaller number of neighbors than the fixed size n, we simply pad the neighborhood vector with zeros. And for nodes with a larger number of neighbors, we sample the neighbors uniformly. The mechanism that we employ to allow nodes to understand their context is what we call the gossip attend or GOT block. For example, if we choose nodes 6 and 5 as gossipers, they both send their message to the GOT block. And this block somehow allows both nodes to understand that they are both in the yellow neighborhood. This operation can be done between each pair of nodes. However, we have restricted it to be between a pair of nodes connected by an edge, as shown in this picture. The internal of a GOT block looks like this, and it is the mutual attention mechanism that instills context understanding based on the encoded message of the neighborhood. In GOT block, we first encode the message from gossipers using a global or context-agnostic embedding, which is this matrix E. And that is, from the global embedding, we simply perform a lookup operation for every node in the neighborhood vector. As a result, each encoded message becomes a D by N matrix which is shown below. In the mutual attention step, we will have two gossip partners denoted by small letters S and T, along with their encoded message. Then, in order that the gossipers understand their context, first we compute an alignment matrix between the encoded message matrices S and T, as shown in the last equation. Next, we identify a gossiper's important neighbors by performing a column and row-wise pollings. What we refer to as important neighbors are those which inform the gossipers about the shared context between them. And the importance information is captured by the two weight vectors S sub S and S sub T. Finally, the context-sensitive representation is obtained by taking the weighted sum of the global embedding of the important neighbors or nodes in shared contexts. The model is trained by minimizing the following negative log likelihood of the H using negative sampling, and WST is the weight of the H ST. To demonstrate the effectiveness of the proposed method, we perform extensive experiments and compare our results with several baselines, both from the context-agnostic and context-sensitive paradigms. From the context-agnostic baselines, 5 are just based on the topology information, 3 are using topology and content, 1 of them is from the family of algorithms known as graph neural networks or GNNs. From the context-sensitive baselines, 1 is just based on topology and 2 of them uses both topology and content information. We have also included a variant of our algorithm that uses just the global embedding. We have used the following 6 datasets, and the features are used only by those baselines that require content information. The first result that we report is on link prediction. The experiments are carried out by training all the algorithms using a fraction of the H, which are indicated by the percentage of training H column. The reported results are using the remaining fraction or holdout set of H's. As you can see from the table, on the Cora citation network dataset, mostly the performance of the context-sensitive algorithms is significantly better than the context-agnostic ones. And the proposed method GOAT performs better than the other context-sensitive baselines by up to 5%. For the second dataset taken from a popular question and answering platform in China, we see a similar result with GOAT achieving up to 12% gain over the best performing state-of-the-art context-sensitive baselines. Note that compared to all the baselines, GOAT is robust to the change of the percentage of training H's. Here we show the performance comparison of GOAT with a GNN-based baseline called Variational Graph Autoencoder, or in short VGAE, that is considered to be a strong baseline for link prediction tasks from the GNN family. Again, we observe that GOAT outperforms VGAE by up to 8%. Next, we consider another task, which is node clustering. For this task, we use the email dataset, which is an email exchange network between the core members of large European research institutes. Nodes have group affiliations based on exactly one of the 42 departments they are from. By training all the methods using a fraction of the H, first we obtain a representation of the nodes. Then we use this representation as features for k-means clustering algorithm that predict their department affiliation. And in this table, we report our findings. Yet again, our algorithm significantly outperforms all the baselines. Finally, to shed some light on what's happening under the hood, we consider the following case study using the encounter relation network between the characters in the Les Miserables novel. Assume that the current gossipers are node 25 and 55. Which are these nodes. When we inspect the importance of node 55 neighbors, as highlighted by the intensity of the red color in the image below, we see that the importance weight is mostly on the nodes from the orange and cyan contexts. If we change the partner of 55 from 25 to 48, the importance shifts to a different group of nodes now. Now, the important nodes are mostly from the green context, which are shared by 55 and 48. In conclusion, in this study, we proposed a context-sensitive graph representation learning algorithm called GONT. GOT has two main elements, which are the gossip-like communication and mutual attention. With these elements, nodes can pay attention to different parts of their neighborhood depending on with whom they are gossiping with. We have empirically demonstrated the benefit of our approach by performing several experiments on link prediction and node clustering tasks and achieving a significant improvement over the best performing state-of-the-art methods. Thank you very much for your attention.